Verse 5. Take loss and defeat upon myself. Whenever someone, out of envy, does me wrong by attacking or slandering me, I shall take loss and defeat upon myself, and give gain and victory to others. Does me wrong by attacking or slandering me. Some individuals struggle with such situations, wondering, why does this person inexplicably reject and defame me? They cannot find a reason. In reality, when no reason is apparent, usually it is because others envy you. Perhaps you often flaunt your virtues and abilities, or do things in a public setting that easily stir jealousy in others. Please don't do things in front of a crowd that might make others jealous unless they joyfully wish for you to do so. However, we should not blindly refuse all actions. When the situation calls for it, we can proceed. In other circumstances, however, we should be humble. To receive the last two lines of this verse, Geshe Chakawa followed Guru Sharawa for 6 years. He practiced these instructions throughout his life and eventually eradicated the clinging to I and mine. Many of us, especially the lay practitioners who recently arrived here, received the entire transmission of 8 verses for training the mind effortlessly. I hope we can cherish it. This verse may seem easy to understand in its literal sense. However, its meaning is profound and vast. By practicing it earnestly and diligently, we can eliminate all clinging to the self and achieve a high spiritual state. This verse says that others, out of impure motives such as jealousy, attachment, anger, ignorance, or carelessness, may unfairly revile and slander us or those related to us, such as our Vajra Guru, Vajra peers, parents, relatives, and friends. There are 2 types of personal attacks, the non-factual personal attack and the factual personal attack. For example, I have kept my precepts pure, but someone says that I haven't, or I did not steal anything, but someone accuses me of theft, or I am not a heretic, but someone says I am. These are non-factual personal attacks, which means the attack doesn't accord with the facts. A factual personal attack means the accusation corresponds to the facts. The term factual personal attack may not be easy to understand. It refers to a situation where you have a fault and others spread your fault. Of course, they might exaggerate it, describing a minor fault you have as something huge. In this case, it doesn't align with the facts. Ordinary beings tend to exaggerate the faults of others. For ordinary people, a factual personal attack can be endured to some extent, but a non-factual personal attack is unbearable. I was very young during the Cultural Revolution. At that time, many people were labelled as 4 black categories. I heard that one of my relatives was put on 3 hats, and I was curious to see his hats. However, during a persecution session, I saw him standing on the stage with some other people, but there was no hat on his head. This can also be considered a form of non-factual personal attack. Ordinary people usually regard those who slander them as their biggest enemy. However, for Mahayana practitioners, slander and revilement are like the wish-fulfilling gem, a precious treasure that bestows merits and an opportunity to attain Buddhahood swiftly. Geshe Potawa used to say, "When people slander you, it is the greatest kindness to you." We must examine our minds to see whether we can arouse such beliefs. Furthermore, on the Mahayana path to Buddhahood, a practitioner would even give their spouse, children, and body to all sentient beings. So, is being slandered and reviled a big deal? In the past, a great master was imprisoned for several years due to others' jealousy. Yet he faced this adversity with peace, saying, "This is my karma." Another well-known example is Milarepa. In his last years, a geshe, driven by jealousy, offered him poisoned yogurt. Milarepa, who viewed everything as dreams and illusions, calmly drank it. These are the precious qualities that a Mahayana practitioner ought to have. They illustrate how afflictive emotions can be transformed into the spiritual path. Even if great masters consume poison, it is not a big problem for them. Their concentration is deep, and their negative karma is minimal. Hence, it won't impact them too much. Their mental power is strong, and their compassion can even transform poison into medicine. Indeed, they have this ability. Their powerful thoughts can directly alter the chemical composition of the poison. It is not difficult for them. It is achievable. It is a pity that most practitioners today have too ingrained self-grasping. They won't yield even an inch to others. Isn't this the complete opposite of genuine Dharma practice? We should examine ourselves and not focus on others. As practitioners, let's reflect on ourselves. Moreover, although some individuals have spent many years of practice in retreat, they fly into a rage upon encountering even a minor adverse circumstance. In such cases, even a lifelong meditation in the mountains won't bring a significant benefit. Sakya Pandita, in his Treasure of Good Advice, said, "Even in the forest, evil people deteriorate. Even in the city, noble people remain serene. Forest beasts can be wild and ferocious, but good horses are well disciplined in town." As followers of the Buddha, we must have a virtuous character. Only on this foundation can we achieve progress in our Dharma practice. Some individuals have studied the Dharma for many years but haven't made significant progress because they didn't build their practice on a solid foundation. They lack a virtuous character. Virtue is the starting point of all spiritual practice. So, what does it entail? First, it means having no intention to harm others. Virtuous people never seek to harm others. If someone harms them, they may resist when pushed to their limits, but generally speaking, they will never harm others for their own benefit. They can forgive ordinary wrongs, but may resist unbearable harm. A Tibetan saying states that in peaceful times, when we enjoy the sunshine with a full stomach and everything is going well, everyone seems to be a good practitioner, free from mental afflictions. But as soon as difficulties arise, when food and clothing are scarce, or when there is thunder and rain, our practice is gone. This is a picture that we often see among practitioners. To overcome this problem, we need to cultivate a pure vision in our mind, see all phenomena as dreams and illusions, and view all sentient beings as having Buddha nature. Now, overwhelmed by their negative karma, they hurt me, but they have no choice. just as patients fall ill even if they don't want to. Under the influence of karma, sentient beings hurt us. In reality, there are no sentient beings, no I. We too are governed by karma and appear to be harmed. Both the one who causes harm and the one who is harmed are bound by karma. Therefore, we must treat them with great compassion. When we open our minds in this way, it will be easy for us to endure harm from others. Then we can further meditate that all situations can be turned into the Dharma path, nurturing our spiritual realization. Thus, we will generate gratitude towards all sentient beings and wish to repay their kindness. First and foremost, we need to remember the kindness of all sentient beings, to recognize that they have been kind to us throughout countless lifetimes and have been our parents in the past. With this mindset, it is easy to forgive them. People often say, take small losses for the sake of big gains, and failure is the mother of success. From the viewpoint of secular people, we can learn lessons from failure and loss, which allows us to achieve better gains and successes in the future. From the perspective of the Dharma, to attain Buddhahood, we should offer all happiness to others. Only in this way can we achieve the supreme enlightenment. Well, offering happiness to sentient beings is not for the purpose of attaining Buddhahood. Instead, because we have the habitual tendencies of attachment and anger, we need to do so. When we are free from these afflictions, we are liberated. Buddhahood is inherent in us, but it is clouded by our afflictive and cognitive obstacles. In the Song of Victory, His Holiness Jigme Pansok Rinpoche said, to benefit yourself in the long term, the pith instruction is to benefit others in the short term. Therefore, we should, without the least hesitation, take upon ourselves all the faults, losses, and sufferings of others, and dedicate all our merits, happiness, and benefits to them. This instruction may not be suitable for everyone. Some individuals may remain selfish after reading it, thinking, I can benefit others for my own gain. Thus, whether in the short or long term, the intention becomes selfish, which is wrong. Such expressions can lead to misunderstandings. This instruction is profound. I initially planned to elaborate further, but I have to admit that I don't have such a high spiritual realization. I only have some limited understanding and personal experiences. In our daily lives, if we often look at others' faults, over time we may feel that no one is kind-hearted. However, if we consistently recall others' virtues and reflect on their kindness to us, we will become accustomed to this good habit and be grateful to everyone. Just as an eye disease patient sees a snow mountain as yellow, while a healthy person perceives it as white, all phenomena arise from the mind. After understanding this truth, we should put it into practice. In the Domang Monastery in Rago County, there was a Khenpo named Nekshi. In his eyes, everyone is good. He never looks at others' faults. Even though he recognizes that faults exist, he says it is not right to talk about others' faults. Maybe these are the skillful methods used by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to help sentient beings and have extraordinary secret intentions. So, he never argues with others. When you notice someone's fault, you can tell yourself there may be an underlying intention from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Thus, you won't perceive it as a fault. Dwelling on others' faults actually corresponds to your negative thoughts. Behind this action, there are unwholesome thoughts associated with anger. When you dwell on others' faults, you are creating negative karma. Do you know that? When you see someone's faults, you must feel aversion. How can you arouse joy in such circumstances? If you envy someone, you may feel delighted to find their faults. This is actually gloating. That too is not a positive mindset. Others' faults appear as faults, but are actually projections of your eighth consciousness. After attaining enlightenment, there are no sentient beings and no faults, only ignorance. Genuine Buddhas and Bodhisattvas won't harbour even a trace of unwholesome thoughts towards the faults of sentient beings. Instead, they have great compassion, which is ever present in them. Before great compassion arises in you, please don't try to change others. When you see others' faults, please ask yourself, do I have compassion? Are there any traces of anger or other afflictions in me? If so, you should first repent and then transform your intention into pure, great compassion. Please cultivate this state of mind first. If you can embody it, you don't need to point out others' faults. They will naturally change. That is why, when encountering those with spiritual realizations and virtues, they don't even need to say anything, and you will feel ashamed and correct your faults. Please cultivate great compassion. It is the best way. Don't dwell on others' faults. As the saying goes, man struggles upwards, water flows downwards. The pinnacle of Dharma practice is the aforementioned conduct of great masters who take upon themselves all the suffering, loss and defeat and offer to others all the benefit and happiness. We should not start like a Bodhisattva, become like an ordinary being in the middle, and end up like a demon, overwhelmed by an ever-growing ego and falling into miserable realms. There must be such cases in history, so the great master imparted this teaching. This pattern also happens to interpersonal relationships. When two people meet for the first time, they get along very well and act like Bodhisattvas. After a while, they behave like ordinary beings. Eventually, they resent each other and break up, as if being possessed by demons. When you start a new relationship, you'd better not act like a Bodhisattva. Instead, keep a distance and act in an ordinary way. Women often fall into this pattern. At first, they get along very well, but over time, they may become annoyed with each other. As practitioners, don't get too close to each other, no matter how deep your past connections are. If you are too close to someone, you might lose mutual respect and somehow hurt each other. Additionally, others may envy your friendship and try to sow discord between you. If one of you doesn't trust the other enough, you might believe the outsider's words and become vexed. Intimate relationships are often susceptible to envy and manipulation by others. Therefore, we should not trust outsiders rashly, but observe by ourselves. If you have a great relationship built on long-term mutual trust, yet someone speaks ill of your friend, please don't believe it lightly. Unfortunately, ordinary beings often accept even rumours as truth. Relationships often start well, but deteriorate over time. I hope we won't fall into this pattern. When encountering obstacles, especially when you progress well in spiritual practice but the other person doesn't, yet you cannot change them, you'd better stay away from them as soon as possible and not give them chances to commit negative karma. Staying away from them is a good approach. You have to do so. It is protecting them, not rejecting them. Don't let them become vexed because their afflictions are intense and they cannot control themselves. This is the problem of ordinary beings. They cannot control themselves. If they could, they would not be ordinary. This instruction seems simple literally, but is profound in meaning. Only Bodhisattvas of the first stage and above can practice the 8 verses for training the mind truly and perfectly. However, we can practice it similarly. With the blessings from the Guru combined with our diligent effort on the mind, we can gradually progress to such a state. Initially, you may find it hard to live out this instruction, but gradually, during your sitting meditation, you might be able to apply it to some extent. For example, when visualizing someone unreasonably insulting or defaming you, you can aspire, I shall take loss and defeat upon myself and give gain and victory to this person. However, it is hard to apply this instruction to real-life situations. This teaching is profound. But as a Bodhisattva, ultimately you need to do so. Otherwise, your Bodhisattva practice won't be complete. When you can live it out, it is not difficult. The key is to eradicate self-grasping. Once you uproot it, you can cultivate bodhicitta. These 2 aspects are fundamental. After thoroughly cultivating these 2 points, embodying this instruction won't be hard. When you are no longer attached to I and have aroused bodhicitta, concepts such as benefiting others or oneself, success or failure, loss or gain become insignificant. There is no loss or gain in your spiritual state. Loss may turn out to be a gain, and gain may turn out to be a loss. What you once perceived as loss may become a benefit, and what you thought was gain might become a loss. Once you reach a certain spiritual state, there is no big difference between loss and gain. You won't perceive anything as a loss. What ordinary beings see as a loss might be a great benefit from your perspective. It can help us cultivate patience like a precious treasure. So, why not embrace it? Harm is like a precious treasure, so we should accept and endure it. Fame, on the contrary, can undermine our virtues, so we should not embrace it. When we praise others, we may not realize whether we are helping or harming them. When we praise ordinary beings, their ego may grow. In that case, aren't we harming them? Therefore, don't casually praise others. It is better to be silent. Sentient beings may need encouragement at the appropriate time. If someone has an inferiority complex and needs an incentive, we can sometimes encourage them. Conversely, if someone is arrogant and boastful, praising them would jeopardize them. When you see someone making progress in their spiritual practice, you may feel happy for them and commend them. If you genuinely rejoice in your heart, you don't necessarily need to express it verbally. If you do, you should intend to help others. Otherwise, it would be pointless. We can rejoice in our hearts. Some people know how praise works. So, to bring it down, they frequently praise you until you decline. Those who praise you may envy you. When you become arrogant and opinionated, they have achieved their goal. Some people have evil intentions, so don't assume that being praised is always a good thing. Many people cannot withstand praise. We may often praise others, saying, "You have done so well in your practice, with great qualities and dignity." Such words may cause the recipient's ego to grow and lead to problems. When problems arise, they may not even realize the reason behind it. Actually, it is because we praised them. In such cases, aren't we at fault? Therefore, don't praise others casually.